The cameras were rolling, the audience was cheering, and then 18-year-old Phoenix Taylor stood at the Family Feud podium with the careful awareness of someone who lived in constant vigilance against their own mind's potential betrayal, their eyes holding the confused fear of someone who had learned that hours or even days could disappear from their consciousness without warning, leaving them in unfamiliar places with no memory of how they had arrived there or what they had done during the missing time. When Steve Harvey asked about your biggest fear, Phoenix's response, delivered with the quiet terror of someone who couldn't trust their own memory or sense of continuous existence, would reveal what it means to live with a condition where your consciousness could simply vanish, leaving behind a body that continued to function while your aware mind traveled to places that left no trace in memory. "Not remembering the hours I've lost," Phoenix had said, their voice carrying the weight of 3 years spent living with dissociative fugue episodes that could steal entire days from their life, leaving them to piece together fragments of existence from other people's accounts and physical evidence of activities they couldn't recall performing. "I have a condition where I lose time, sometimes hours, sometimes whole days, and I have no memory of what happened during those periods. I could be anywhere, doing anything, and I wouldn't remember it." The studio had fallen into an uncomfortable silence as everyone present tried to understand what it would mean to live with the constant possibility that your conscious mind could simply disconnect from your life, leaving you to exist in states of awareness that created no lasting memories and over which you had no control or later recollection. Phoenix Taylor had been experiencing dissociative fugue episodes since age 15, when what had initially been attributed to typical teenage stress and academic pressure had revealed itself to be a serious dissociative disorder that could cause them to enter altered states of consciousness, during which they would continue to function normally, while having no later memory of their actions, conversations, or experiences during these periods. Dissociative fugue is a rare form of dissociative amnesia, characterized by sudden, unexpected travel or wandering, combined with an inability to recall one's past and confusion about personal identity. During fugue episodes, individuals may appear normal to observers but are operating in an altered state of consciousness that creates no lasting memories and often involves behaviors that are uncharacteristic of their usual personality and decision-making patterns. Phoenix's first fugue episode had occurred during their sophomore year of high school, when they had been found by school security wandering the hallways at midnight, with no memory of how they had gotten there, why they were at school after hours, or what they had been doing for the previous 6 hours. The incident had initially been dismissed as a possible sleepwalking episode or stress reaction, but as similar episodes continued to occur with increasing frequency, it became clear that Phoenix was dealing with something much more serious and complex. The most terrifying aspect of Phoenix's fugue episodes was the complete absence of memory or awareness during these periods. Unlike other forms of altered consciousness where some dim recollection or sense of continuity might remain, Phoenix's dissociative states created complete breaks in their autobiographical memory, leaving gaps in their life story that could only be filled in by other people's observations or physical evidence of their activities. The episodes varied in duration and intensity, with some lasting only a few hours and others extending for entire days or even weekends. During these periods, Phoenix might be found miles from home with no memory of traveling there, might have conversations with friends or family members that they couldn't later recall, or might complete complex tasks like homework assignments or household chores with no recollection of the mental processes or decision-making that had guided these activities. The unpredictability of Phoenix's fugue episodes had made every aspect of their life uncertain and anxiety-provoking. They never knew when their conscious awareness might disappear, how long they might be absent from their own life, or what they might do or where they might go during these altered states. This uncertainty had created a constant state of hypervigilance and fear that had severely impacted their ability to function normally or plan for the future. The impact on Phoenix's education had been severe and challenging to accommodate. Teachers and administrators had struggled to understand a condition where a student might attend classes, participate in discussions, and complete assignments during dissociative episodes but have no memory of the learning or interactions that had occurred. The discontinuous nature of Phoenix's memory had made it difficult to build on previous knowledge or maintain consistent academic progress. The social consequences of Phoenix's dissociative episodes had been devastating and isolating. Friends had found it disturbing and confusing to have conversations with Phoenix during fugue states, only to discover later that Phoenix had no memory of their interactions. Some relationships had been damaged by Phoenix's inability to remember shared experiences or important conversations, while others had been strained by the unpredictability and fear surrounding their condition. Phoenix's family had been traumatized by watching their teenager disappear psychologically while remaining physically present, never knowing whether they were interacting with Phoenix's conscious self or with someone operating in a dissociative state. The fear of not knowing where Phoenix might go or what might happen during episodes had created a constant state of worry and hypervigilance for everyone who loved them. The medical journey to understand and treat Phoenix's dissociative fugue had been complex and often frustrating. Dissociative disorders are relatively rare and can be difficult to diagnose, particularly when episodes are infrequent or when patients have no memory of their altered states to report to healthcare providers. Finding specialists who were familiar with dissociative conditions and developing effective treatment strategies had been an ongoing process of trial and adjustment. The underlying causes of Phoenix's dissociative episodes were complex and likely related to psychological trauma and stress that had overwhelmed their normal coping mechanisms. While the specific triggers weren't always clear, the fugue states seemed to represent their mind's attempt to escape from psychological pain or overwhelming circumstances by essentially removing their conscious awareness from the situation. Treatment for Phoenix's condition had included various forms of therapy designed to address underlying trauma and stress, medications to help manage anxiety and mood symptoms that might contribute to dissociative episodes, and strategies for recognizing early warning signs that might indicate an approaching fugue state. Progress had been slow and inconsistent, with some periods of stability followed by clusters of episodes that reminded everyone of the ongoing nature of the condition. The psychological impact of living with dissociative fugue had been profound and multifaceted. Phoenix experienced ongoing anxiety about the possibility of episodes, depression related to the disruption of their life and relationships, and existential confusion about identity and continuity of self when significant portions of their existence were absent from their memory. The practical challenges of managing daily life with an unpredictable dissociative condition had required Phoenix and their family to develop various safety strategies and monitoring systems. They carried identification and emergency contact information, used location tracking technology, and maintained detailed schedules and records that could help piece together activities during episodes. The Family Feud application had been submitted by Phoenix's older brother Marcus, who had hoped that participating in a positive, structured activity might provide a sense of accomplishment and normalcy that wasn't affected by Phoenix's dissociative episodes. He had also thought that the controlled environment of television production might be a safe space for Phoenix to experience success and recognition. During the pre-show preparations, Phoenix had been carefully monitoring their mental state and stress levels, using techniques they had learned for recognizing potential triggers or early warning signs of dissociative episodes. The production team had been briefed about their condition and had developed plans for supporting Phoenix if an episode occurred during taping. The game had been proceeding with Phoenix participating thoughtfully when they were feeling grounded and present, but clearly managing ongoing anxiety about the possibility of dissociating during the taping. The Taylor family was competing against the Chen family from Washington, and while both sides had been playing with good energy, there was an underlying tension as Phoenix's family remained vigilant for any signs that an episode might be developing. But when it came time for the category Your Biggest Fear, and it was Phoenix's turn at the buzzer, the question had struck directly at the heart of their daily experience with a condition that represented perhaps the ultimate loss of control over one's own consciousness and memory. Steve Harvey had approached the podium with his usual warm energy, but something about Phoenix's obvious anxiety and the protective way their family was watching had made him more gentle and attentive than usual. "All right, Phoenix," Steve had said softly, "your biggest fear. What comes to mind?" Phoenix had looked at their family members, then back at Steve, their expression showing the careful self-monitoring that characterized their constant awareness of their mental state. "Not remembering the hours I've lost," Phoenix had said, their words immediately creating confusion and concern among everyone present. "I have a condition where I lose time, sometimes hours, sometimes whole days, and I have no memory of what happened during those periods. I could be anywhere, doing anything, and I wouldn't remember it." The studio had become very quiet as everyone present tried to understand what it would mean to live with such a fundamental disconnect from your own existence and experiences. Steve had paused, clearly recognizing that Phoenix was describing something both serious and difficult to comprehend. "Phoenix," Steve had said gently, "that sounds terrifying. Can you help me understand what that experience is like?" "It's like waking up from a dream, except I wasn't asleep," Phoenix had explained with the clarity that comes from extensive experience trying to help others understand an almost incomprehensible condition. "I'll be somewhere I don't remember going, or people will tell me about conversations I had that I can't recall. It's like parts of my life just disappear." The studio audience had listened with obvious concern and fascination as they learned about a condition that challenged fundamental assumptions about consciousness and memory. "How often does this happen?" Steve had asked with genuine worry. "It's unpredictable," Phoenix had replied. "Sometimes I'm fine for weeks and then I might lose several days in a row. I never know when it's going to happen or how long I'll be gone from my own life." Steve had looked at Phoenix's family, who were clearly emotional as they listened to their loved one describe their daily reality with such composure. "How has this affected your family?" Steve had asked with obvious compassion. "It's terrifying," Marcus had said, his voice thick with emotion. "We never know if we're talking to Phoenix or to someone who won't remember the conversation. We've learned to document everything because Phoenix might need to piece together what happened during episodes." Phoenix's mother had nodded, tears in her eyes. "The hardest part is not knowing if Phoenix is safe when they're in these states," she had said. "They can function normally, but they're not really present. It's like watching someone you love disappear while still being physically there." Steve had looked at Phoenix with deep respect and concern. "Phoenix," Steve had said, "what you're dealing with is something most people couldn't imagine. The fact that you're here, that you're fighting this, that you're getting help, that shows incredible courage." Steve had begun removing his suit jacket, understanding that this moment required recognition of Phoenix's extraordinary struggle and validation of their experience with such a challenging condition. "Phoenix," Steve had said, placing the jacket around their shoulders, "this jacket represents something very important today. It represents the understanding that even when parts of your life disappear from memory, the moments when you are fully present, like right now, are valuable and real." Phoenix had pulled the jacket closer, clearly moved by the recognition and validation of their struggle. Steve had turned to address the studio audience. "Ladies and gentlemen," Steve had announced, "Phoenix Taylor is dealing with a condition that most of us can't even imagine. They're showing us incredible strength in living with the constant possibility of losing time and memory, and they're helping us understand that consciousness is something we should never take for granted." The game had resumed with increased appreciation for the present moment and awareness of the fragility of consciousness, as everyone understood that they were witnessing someone whose very presence was a victory over a condition that could steal their awareness at any time. When Steve had asked the final question about things that matter most, Phoenix had answered, "Being completely present in this moment, right now." The episode aired 4 months later and became an important educational tool for dissociative disorders and the reality of living with conditions that affect consciousness and memory. Mental health organizations used Phoenix's story to help people understand the complexity of dissociative conditions and to encourage better support for individuals dealing with similar challenges. Phoenix had kept Steve's jacket as a symbol of the moment when their struggle was publicly recognized and their courage was validated. More importantly, their story had helped connect them with other people dealing with dissociative conditions and had contributed to research efforts aimed at better understanding and treating these complex psychological disorders. The jacket represented Phoenix's understanding that every moment of conscious presence was precious, that living with uncertainty required extraordinary courage, and that their struggle with dissociative episodes was real and worthy of understanding and support. Because that's what bravery looks like when it faces the possibility of losing conscious awareness without warning. That's what strength sounds like when it acknowledges the terror of missing parts of your own life. And that's what happens when an 18-year-old person teaches everyone around them that consciousness is a gift that should never be taken for granted, and that being fully present in any given moment is an achievement worthy of celebration when your mind can disappear from your life without notice. Phoenix Taylor lived with the constant threat of losing hours or days to dissociative fugue episodes, but on that day at Family Feud, they showed that every moment of conscious awareness was a victory, that presence was precious precisely because it could be lost, and that courage could be found in the simple act of being fully awake and aware in the present moment.